Welcome to the Desire to Dream podcast. I'm your host, Lo Wilder. The vision of this podcast is to provide tools on how to become successful in your finances, business, leadership development, and much more. A little bit about me: I grew up in the hood, homeless at the age of 14. I made a choice not to become a product of my environment. And today, I am a successful businessman, community leader, and inspirational speaker. It is my desire to encourage and empower you to unlock your greatness. So tune in and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Desire to Dream podcast, man. It's your boy, Lo Wilder, and I'm just excited. Met this brother, at one of the Eric Thomas conferences here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we just connected right off the bat, man, like-minded individuals, man. And I just see him doing some phenomenal things. My brother, Shamawn Wright, over in Oakland, California. Shamawn, what's going on, my bro?
What's up? What's cracking, man? You know what I'm saying? We in sunny California right now in the deep
Word.
east and deep east Oakland, in the dubs right now. So, it's always good being amongst your people, and still doing the work, man, and inspiring people in the community that they could do the same thing. So that's why I live amongst my people, and I don't know if I ever really leave my people like that, but That's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Well, look, Desire to Dream podcast, man, it's a platform to help, people that are, I bring on people who are achieving at a high level, right? Mm-hmm. People that are executing, turning their dreams to reality. I see what you're doing. Not only are you turning your dream into reality, but you're also helping others turn their dream into reality. So I definitely want to get in a little bit about the backstory, but you can talk about how you're getting your Ph.D. in education, but also, you're the CEO of your organization. I want you to talk about that, but kind of share a little bit about your backstory, because that was something that stood out to me, man. You got on stage at Speakers Boot Camp and you kind of shared a little bit about your story. And I was like, man, my brother went through some things, some adversity and challenges, but you was able to overcome that, from alcohol addiction, substance abuse, all of that stuff, to be able to turn that dream of getting higher education and also helping and giving back, man. So without further ado, bro, kind of share a little bit about your story for the audience, bro.
Yeah, most definitely. I try to tell people this all the time. My story was like, it was like God had to take me through some stuff to change the trajectory of my family, especially on my dad's side. And so, growing up, we grew up as a family. My dad, he was in prison, got out. He was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And he ended up meeting my mom in the church, and they got married. And so when they ended up getting married, they ended up having us 3 boys. My dad had another 3 boys on his side, so there was a total of 6 of us. And so when we grew up, it seemed like everything was going well. We lived in a house in Oakland. I had all my family was there. All my family still stays in Oakland, and so it seemed like we were just one big happy family. And I felt like my father got overwhelmed, and so he started relapsing, going back on drugs, alcohol. He was very abusive to me, my mother. Mentally, physically, and he ended up going back to prison, and so that ended up causing my mom to go down a spiral as well. And so when that ended up happening, what happened was we ended up losing our house. So from the time I was 7, my father was gone. My mom, she was lost in the world. And it was just me and my brothers. We had to raise ourselves. So growing up in the projects, after that transition, we had to go to the projects. We were getting kicked out, evicted, going to homeless shelters. My mom ended up going to jail when we were in one of the homeless shelters. So me and my brothers had to go to a group home. And so when we were in the group home, that was actually the first time in my life where I felt like nobody was coming to save me. And it was at the age of 9. And so I can remember just crying, and I was patiently waiting for someone to come, but I realized no one was coming, so I had to wipe my tears. And at that moment, I knew I had to go into survival mode. And I felt like that's when I locked that little 9-year-old boy up to never show emotions no more, never rely on anybody no more. So I could just remember every single day riding my bike to practice, not looking for no rides from my coaches, from anybody in the group home, any adult, hopping on the bus by myself, hopping on BART, the train, just doing everything by myself. And it got to a point where I felt like I needed money to help provide for my family or to put some food in my stomach. So with me and my cousins, we'll sit there and we'll rob people, whether that was breaking into people's homes, robbing people on the streets. And so I finally got locked up. I ended up getting caught. And when I ended up getting caught, I got locked up, did about 7 months. And from that moment forward, I knew that this wasn't really the life that I wanted to live. and I was a pretty decent athlete. I wasn't the best athlete,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew that I needed to get out. And so I remember when, I got out and I was struggling academically, and I knew something about academics was the way out. It was like sports was my way out, but I was like, if I don't have academics, I can't make it out of this place. So I started taking school serious. I went from a 1.7 to a 2.7, 2.7 to a 3.2, 3.2 to a 4.0, and then the rest was history.
That's
and
what's
then
up.
and then we ended up and then I started doing really good athletically. I was still trying to find my way. I was still hanging around a group of friends that was still doing the same old, and and I still was dibbling and dabbling over here, trying
Yeah,
to go to
living both sides of the fence. Yeah.
trying to live both sides. And
Right.
I was very fortunate that I didn't really get caught up after that. My high school football coach, I remember me and my mom, we were butting heads a lot. And I was actually going to end up moving in with my uncle, but my high school football coach didn't want me to leave the high school. So he ended up taking me in him and his wife, Kim Pika, and then Coach Wilson Pika. They both took me in. And so when they took me in, that was another transition in my life where I
Wow.
knew one thing, that opportunity presented itself and I couldn't waste this opportunity. And
Man,
there was many people trying to call me back to this side. And I was like, something like, I
I'm
can't
good.
waste this opportunity. Exactly. And so
Mm-hmm.
I ended up, sticking true to my truth and staying with that process and not worrying about the outcome, not seeing 5 or 10 years down the road, but just staying true to this process, right? And trying to live day by day. And because of that, I got a full-ride football scholarship to UC Davis. So I played Division I football, had a phenomenal career at UC Davis, ended up playing professionally, had some NFL tryouts, CFL tryouts, played arena football. And then after that, it was over. It was over, and I was trying to figure out life. I ended up becoming a teacher. And when I was a teacher, I thought I could be doing a lot more. And so I'll go into the rest. Once we go, I think we'll transition to the rest. So I'll probably tap into a little bit more of my story as we keep.
Nah, that's good, brother. That's good,
So,
man. But I
yeah.
definitely, you got a lot right there that I'm like, bro, the group home, right? Where you guys
Mhm.
split up, was it like you left your brothers and whatnot?
So when we were in the group home, they did their best to keep us together. So me and my
Yeah,
brothers actually were able to stay together. I feel like that was actually the first time where we stayed together, but we start picking our own paths,
gotcha.
which was
Yeah,
which was tough. It was tough for us. I was more on the athletic side, and they were trying to be athletes, but they were trying to find their way around life too, not having their mom or their dad in their life. So
yeah,
that was a
yeah.
little tough for us, for sure.
Nah, for sure, man. And you know what? It's amazing that story, because like I was in a similar situation when I was 14 years old. My mom got arrested for selling drugs. And
Yeah.
so she ended up doing 4 years. My entire high school years, she was in jail, locked up, doing her prison time. And I was staying at a home with, my best friend, after going from different friends, my best friend's mom allowed me to move in with them, but she had 13 kids of her own, bro.
Yeah.
I was sleeping on the floor trying to make it happen, like
Hey,
trying
yeah.
to figure out my ways. But my football coach also, he offered to allow me to stay with him, but I decided to stay where I was at, just because I was a little bit more comfortable. It was my whole neighborhood. And but my brother, one of my homeboys, Jimmy, was able to move in with him because he was kind of
Yeah.
in the same situation. So it's funny, man. That we have some
Bro.
similarities, right?
Yeah,
But
that's crazy, and I think for especially for Black men, sometimes when we go through that part in our life where our mom gets taken away from us,
word,
it's like those are vital times where we really do need our mother, because I
absolutely.
feel like a lot of times, especially for me, I just kind of felt abandoned,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was like the person who is supposed to be your first love is not there, and so you don't really have that. So it's like, who could be that nurturing person for you? You feel me?
Right. Yeah, because
Yeah.
even though people are bringing you in and saying, "Hey, you can stay with me," like Shamawn, stay with me, we're gonna take
Mhm.
you in. It's not the same, right? And
Exactly.
so you're dealing with that as a kid, and when you're a kid, you're trying to think like, "Man, is this me? Like, is it my fault?" You start to really, be down on yourself. But I know football was my escape, man. It was a opportunity for me to just escape, play ball, kind of just relax, like, have my boys, man, my friends. But then, like you said, bro, it really made me do better in the classroom,
For
because
sure.
if I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
in the classroom, I wasn't going to play. And then it was that at that moment, my football coach was telling me, like, Lo, you can make it to college. Like, you can play
Yeah.
college football. You can go to school for free. At that time, man, nobody in my family graduated high school, let alone went to college. So when he was like, man, you know, take this football serious, you know, you can get a scholarship, bro. I strapped up every game, like, yo, I'm looking at the quarterback, like, you my college tuition, bro. Like, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Hey,
I'm coming the whole time.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy. I used to have that mentality too, man. I used to always think like the person in front of me was a person that stopped me from eating. You know what I'm saying? I used to look at the person across from me like, you the reason why I had to go through all that. Like, it's either me or you. You know what I'm saying? We in this dog fight, like, and I'm not gonna lose. I've been losing my whole life and everything. And this is the time I'm not losing. Now I feel that kind of gave me goosebumps just putting myself back in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nah, for sure, bro. Like, man, listen, and you that mentality, that survival mode, like you're constantly in survival mode. So you went to play, you know, in college, you went played a little professionally and whatnot, and then you had to transition and took the pads off. I don't know about you, but I know for me, it was crazy because I was like, man, who am I? Who am I that, you know, without playing football, right?
That's deep, man.
You know, who am I gonna be? So I had to find my identity, and it took many years, bro, to try to figure that out. So what was it for you that was like, bro, like,
that was man, thinking about that moment, because just thinking about how far I came, I can remember when I got back from Nebraska. I was playing arena in Nebraska, and I got back and I sat on the bed, and it was like 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like, it was like reality hit me that this thing was coming to an end. You know what I'm saying? And so I was really in a deep depression, you know, and this goes into me drinking a lot more, smoking a lot more, popping pills, just doing certain things that I never, like before, I never drank before I went to college. You know, I didn't do anything, and everything that I did do, if I did drink or if I did smoke, anything like that, it was like a social, but it was like barely, because I was so scared, but I was doing so many things. And, you know, I was coaching football, you know, and it felt like when I was working with the kids is when I found my purpose. And a lot of times, a lot of brothers they're not able to find their purpose once they're done playing. And so I was able to find my purpose, but even when I was finding my purpose, I was still lost. And what I mean by that is, like, I was still in survival mode because I was trying to create this new identity. And, you know, it was like I was trying to surround myself with my students or my athletes, and I was neglecting my relationship with my friends or my girlfriend at the time. And, you know, I was so ready to develop like this new identity that I didn't care about nobody else. And so it was so hard to really balance that. And to tell you the truth, what happened with me after from football until I started my business was in 2019. I ended up losing my job as a teacher because I sent in some false documents to the place that hires the teachers or that holds our paperwork. And, you know, it's when I sent in those documents, and at the same time, my relationship with my girlfriend at the time was failing. And my bank account was in the negative 2,000. And so I'm looking at my life like, how do you go from being on top to now you down here at the lowest point of your life? And so I had to go to therapy, and I had to figure out what was really going on with me. And I realized one thing, that little boy at the age of 9 that I talked was
like you said, you locked himself up.
Yeah, I locked him in, that little boy. And I remember going to therapy, and my therapist like, you tell your story like a movie, like there's no emotions attached to it. So I remember I came back the next day or the next week, and I told it again, and she said, put your emotions into it. And I felt every emotion, and it felt like that little boy has like risen out of me. And it was like years of emotions, pent up anger, sadness that was just built inside of me just came out. And she was just talking about, you know, I think you need to go to early prevention rehab. And so it was at that moment where I did that. And in this process is when I started my business. You know, and I tell people a lot of times, sometimes at the lowest and the darkest moments of your life is when the best inventions are created. Yeah. And so I was in there, and I was just sitting there working on my business, going to rehab, still jobless, relationship, trying to rebuild that. And all of a sudden my business just started going, and I started to rebuild myself. I started to build the identity. I started to love myself more and more. I started to forgive people, started to have conversations with family members. And I feel like that's when the true purpose really came into place. I thought I found my purpose when I was working with kids and stuff, but there's more to me where, talking to my family members, talking to my friends, having conversation with my girlfriend, like there's the ability for me to shed light on our relationships, for me to help other people heal. It doesn't have to necessarily be about my students, but I had to find that being in the darkest place of my life.
Word, man. Listen, first of all, I just want to commend you, right, for even sharing that and being transparent, because I think a lot of people, especially as an African American, as a Black man, right, there is the stigma of getting therapy. It's a stigma of going into counseling. And my wife is she's getting her Ph.D. So shout out to wifey. I know she's going to be listening to this, but she's a licensed mental health counselor, and we're constantly having those conversations about the stigma and how we can knock down these walls and the possibility of getting help. For me, it was the 15-year-old boy. I told you, my mom went to jail when I was 14, but when I was 15 and I was living in this house with 13 kids, it was 5 of us in a room. I'm sleeping on the floor. Like I think this time I was sleeping on some clothes. I can't remember the night. It was cold. I had my coat. We used to have our coat on because I was in Massachusetts, right? No heat. You know what I mean? In wintertime. So I'm wearing a coat, my hoodie. I'm sleeping on these clothes, and I'm just like crying, like, man, why is this happening to me, right? And I never forget, like, yo, I know I wanted to be successful, but I never defined success.
For sure.
So all I was doing was chasing. I set goals. I crush it. Never really got to celebrate them. I graduated high school. What's the next thing? Okay, college. Boom. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And it wasn't until about, fast forward, and when I went into therapy, like several years later, and I was having these anxiety attacks. And you could trick your mind and be like, yo, I'm strong, because you always had to be that strong one.
Exactly.
Right? You had to be that strong one. And I'm like, I'm good. They're like, nah, I had this traumatic car accident where I had a head-on-head collision, went into therapy, and my therapist was like, you need to find that little boy that's inside, and you need to let him know that you need to first define what success is, and go to that 15-year-old and tell him everything's okay. And I remember seeing myself going back and just mentally going back and looking and seeing that boy and I'm like, yo, you good now? Like, you were homeless, but now you got a 7-bedroom house, right?
Man, I love that.
Nobody went to high school.
Now
you got a college degree. You good. Nobody had a career. They were dealing drugs, or they were doing other things, in your family. Bro, you got a career. You're a successful businessman. You're giving back to the community. You're doing public speaking. You're helping people turn their dream into reality. So, bro, shout outs to you.
Bro,
I commend you for that, man. And I just wanted to share that too, because whoever's listening right now, man. Go ahead, bro.
I might go ahead and do that myself. You know what I'm saying? Later tonight, I might do that same exact thing, because I feel like I was the same way. You know what I'm saying? It was like you always, like, you never could define success. You didn't even know what it looked like. All you knew was you had these goals and you were trying to crush it, and you were just chasing it. But the hardest part about that was that you're never able to live in the moment. You can't even, like, sometimes, like, even with my business, and what we're doing, like, we're doing some amazing things. But sometimes I'll be sitting there like, I'm really a CEO and I have employees. And one of my employees said, bro, like, I don't even think like, what you're really doing for your community. Like, you're able to provide employment.
Man,
like, you're able to help me feed my family, right? And I'm sitting there like I started shedding a tear, because it's like sometimes you just on the go, that you can't even really see how you're blessing other people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that right there was deep, because that stuff, like that talking to that 9-year-old boy, something I haven't did. You know what I'm saying? And just saying that, it's all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're good now. Like, we in a better place. Like, we don't have to fend for food or worry about money. Like, you're good. And that's one thing, like, that I just want to take some time in my life to slow down. You know what I'm saying? Just appreciate just the beauties of life.
Man,
and what God gave us.
Man. Listen, you have to, bro. I mean, I was at the conference the men's conference that ET had here in Atlanta recently, and I was like, Jamal King, you know, I love Jamal, man. Shout out to 9 to 5 Millionaire. Man, he's just amazing, right? And he was just talking about, you know, who told you that you got till next month? Who told you got till next year? And we take life for granted sometimes. And, you know, when we're chasing these goals, like, you don't know if you're going to be able to reach that goal. You know, like 2020, man, I got in that before the pandemic hit. I was in a head-on-head collision. I was heading to a meeting. I was about to present in front of all my peers from my company. And I woke up in the ambulance.
Wow.
Like, my life could have got taken away that morning. Where a lot of people, they don't get to walk away from the accident that I had.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so that's when I really, like, again, started having these panic and anxiety attacks, and I didn't even know where it was coming from. And I'm going to share this on for the audience as well, because the thing about when you turn off that emotion, right? It's fight or flight, right? And I'm not a therapist, so look, I'm like, disclaimer right now. Look, I'm not a therapist. Like, I'm just sharing my experiences. But most of the time, when you're in survival mode, like, it's fight or flight. Like, I'm either going to fight and stand my ground, or I'm taking off. Like, I ain't dealing with this right now. And so what happens is that you like, a lot of adrenaline and blood starts flowing. And you know, it's really only supposed to be for survival mode. Like, if something was really happening, like if you was getting robbed, somebody put a gun on you, you know, that's fight or flight. You know, but when you're doing that just because you're just trying to figure out what you're going to eat for dinner. And so you're constantly turning that adrenaline up. And then what happens over time, over years, bro, you can't control it. So you could just be sitting there one day and boom, adrenaline just comes out of nowhere. Your heart starts pumping. And you're like, what's going on? So I share that to say, like, man, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you never thought about mental health counseling. Look, I advocate for that. My brother Shamawn advocates for it, healing. And look, and we still healing. We're still going through that process. You know,
I got mine this Saturday.
That's
Friday, actually.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. But yeah, I want to pivot into the business, man, because you are doing phenomenal things, and I definitely want to highlight that. So you're the CEO of Bridge Builders to the New Generation, man. You out there. If you're following him on Instagram, Facebook, I'm gonna have all his social media handles so you can go check him out. Doing phenomenal things in California, the Bay Area, doing things in Cali. Talk about it. You know, you shared how you started the organization, but what exactly you're doing in the community.
So I'm going to go back to how it started, because I think that story is very important. I said, when I was a teacher, and even when I was done playing football, I was lost. And so being a teacher and working with coaching and working with a lot of Black males, I felt like I could be doing a lot more, because I had some living with me. I had to take a lot home every single day. I realized that a lot of them grew up the same way that I grew up. And so I felt like a teacher wasn't really satisfying my purpose. And so what I ended up doing was, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and start something where I could prepare our students for college, but I also want to prepare them for careers as well, because we know not every kid goes to have a career. Then on top of that, I need to have them understand how to express their emotions in a healthy way, how to have different coping mechanisms and not having defense mechanisms that's going to keep their emotions bottled up or suppressed. And so I realized when I started this, I said, okay, what can we do? I said, the biggest thing is that we believe that exposure equals expansion. So the more that we're able to expose their mind, the more that their minds are able to expand. And we know that a lot of times our kids' environments is what keeps them captive, because I have a lot of friends that are either in prison or dead right now because they weren't able to think outside their environment. So what we do is like I said, it's for college and career readiness through social emotional support and mentorship. And so we take our students on a lot of college field trips. We do different things, like we have the SAT and ACT boot camp. So we prepare our seniors for the SAT and the ACT. We also have tutoring for our students. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school, we have math tutors and science tutors for our students. And then we also, over the summertime, this summer, we're going to do our first ever Will to Change Summer Summit. And so for the summer summit, we are bringing in, it's going to be a celebrity panelist. So people that are from the area that are celebrities, whether they are, women that were former athletes, entrepreneurs, rappers, magicians, whatever it may be, they're going to come out. They're going to be our panelists. Then we're going to have our financial investment day. And then we are also going to have our how to start a business day, how to build your credit. And then we're going to have our family resources day. So show all of our families about mental health, talk about generational trauma, have a parent day for our parent session where we could break down generational trauma, where we could break down how to interact with their teachers, just having a healthy relationship with our students. So like I said, our biggest thing is to make sure that we expose our kids to all the opportunities out there, that we're able to take them out of their environment, that we are able to love on them. And then the last part about it is that we have our identity development component, because we feel like when our students aren't able to really understand who they are, then how can they advocate for themselves? How can they take ownership for their education if they don't even know who they are and how they identify and how they show up? So we have our Manhood Mondays, and we are starting our Womenhood Wednesdays, where we, as Black men, we present and we talk about how to navigate through society, how to navigate through educational systems, how to make sure that you show up every single day and express your culture and your identity, and make sure that it's not being eradicated when you step on campus. And the only way you can do that, for the most part, is understanding who you really are and take ownership and love on who you are. And so that's our manhood and our womanhood Mondays and Wednesdays, and also that's our identity development component. Man. And so,
bro, that's fire. And I wish I was out there for the summit, man, because I already know it's going to be impactful, and anybody can learn, no matter if you're youth or whatever. But one of the things I heard you just say that, to me, man, it's amazing. And I think we need to really expose our kids, because not everyone's going to go to college. Exactly. I think you said something about make careers, talking about that. So I was fortunate when I was in high school. I went to a vocational high school. So I took up electric trade. So 1 week I was in class, the next week I was in trade. And when I was 11th grade and 12th grade, I was able to work out in co-op. So instead of going to school, I show up, work for the housing authority as an electrician, also learn carpentry skills and things like that. So obviously back in my mind, I was like, man, I want to play college football. I knew I was going to college. I always said, I got this electric thing that I can fall back on. So I got something that I can do. And it just amazes me that there's not a lot of schools in the East Coast, West Coast that, that offer this. What are you seeing now? Like these kids that, when you're sharing these opportunities, look, if you don't want to go to college, you can be an electrician and make a good living. Do you see the spark? Is there something like they're like, yo, I didn't even think about that?
So I think, and this is what I talk about, and this is, even like being a doctoral student, but when you think about kids that grow up in urban communities or low income communities, they're more fascinated about money than anything. And they're not just fascinated with that, but they're fascinated with the lifestyle of what they think money will come with. And so I think what we do is we do try to do the trade thing, and we do try to focus a little bit on the trades as well, our vocational skills. But we also try to focus on some of our kids taking ownership and starting their own business, because we feel like that is very important. Because if you think about a lot of the best drug dealers are people that were doing criminal activities, could have been probably way better than some of these CEOs of these Fortune 500 companies.
Man, facts, man.
But
listen.
Because they never had no one to show them the way or a different avenue. It's like, man, you know how to push drugs really well. What about these T-shirts? Or what about, this merch? This right here, or what about going into real estate and, doing wholesaling, our fix and flips, our long-term, short-term rentals? Like this is different ways of buying your financial freedom, because I feel like the biggest thing is that, and I try to teach our kids, is buying financial freedom, right? Because it's like, no matter where you go in life, you might have a spouse, but if you are struggling financially, or if this job is taking up too much of your time, or you have to get overtime just so you can make ends meet. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're losing something somewhere, right? And so
Word.
I try to tell them right now, like, there's so many different avenues that you could take. Like, if money is the biggest thing, if that bag is what you really want, like, these are different avenues that you could take, right? But I also implement this with our students is like, before you can become an amazing leader, first you have to follow. You
Mm,
know, you can't just jump into the game and want to have your own company because you don't like working for nobody. Because somewhere along the line, you're gonna have to still work for somebody. Like, you're gonna have to present to a company. You're gonna have to do certain things. You're gonna have to follow up on paperwork if somebody gives you money for, your organization. Like for myself, we're a nonprofit. So we have to seek grant money. And I have to sit in meetings and I have to do different follow-up paperwork. So it's like I'm still receiving money from somewhere else. And
word.
so everything is like in everything. And I try to tell my students, if you're trying to get into this because of one of you just want to think you're going to become rich, this is probably not the thing you want to do. If
Right.
you want to get into this because you just don't want to work for nobody, that's something that you probably shouldn't want to do. You have to do something because this is your purpose.
Mm,
Because I feel like whatever your purpose is, money will make room for you.
that's
And there's
good.
so like I work in education and people always say there's no money in education, right? But I created I brought value to the educational system, and I brought something that nobody else could bring. A black man that was once incarcerated as a youth that's now getting his doctorate and have dreads and has his hat and dress the way he dresses and can relate to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can bring that to the table like the way I bring it to the table, right?
Because
And
that's your
so
purpose.
it's
That's your calling.
exactly it's your
Yeah.
purpose, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like I try to tell my kids that all the time. But going back to that, I think we do bring in, because some kids they don't want to do that route. They feel like they can't run a business, or they so it's like, we have that right there. We have the business or the entrepreneurship component, the real estate component. But we also do have the vocational skill component as well, because we
Word.
know some of our kids, they don't mind working for somebody else, and they don't mind, following this trade, or just, having a consistent salary or consistent hourly pay every single month, whatever it may be. So we do that. We bring in apprenticeship programs. We are doing some stuff over the summertime with one of the apprenticeships program for our students. Next year, we'll have an internship opportunity. We're going to partner up with somebody to an internship opportunity for our students as well. We are also teaching some of our kids how to cut hair. So we
That's what's
bring in
up.
some of the local barbers to teach our kids how to cut hair, because those are something like, when it comes to vocational skills, those are never going away,
Mm-hmm.
because someone's going to always need their bathroom fixed or their house fixed, need the plumbing needs,
Oh
to get
yeah.
the roads fixed, whatever it
Even
may
with my
be.
bald head, man,
Exactly.
I still gotta get my beard,
Everybody
lined
needs
up.
something, right? I got dreads. I got to get my hair cut all the time, lined
Right.
up. So
That word.
it's like those are skills that are necessary. Those are skills when things go wrong or you need some extra money on the side. You can go ahead and do this. You ain't
Make
got
it
to worry
happen.
about selling no drugs or commit no crimes. Like, we got you. And
Yeah.
that's that's
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that we try to take away the thought process of, for me to get fast money, I got to do X, Y, and Z. We
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, bro. We gonna make sure we provide you with the resources. So if you ever down bad and you need to cut here, boy, here you go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is a
You got
good
you.
little $100 for you in a day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
No, that's what's up, man. That's major. And I definitely, again, hats off to you for that, because it's needed, it's necessary. And like you said, there's not a lot of people that are bringing it to
Mhm.
our people, right? Black,
Yeah.
brown, Hispanic, um, bringing them, showing them, giving them that exposure so that they can expand and have brighter futures, so that they can't even have a dream. A lot of kids, they can't dream just because of the realities that they're facing every single day. So you creating that platform for them to be able to see, get exposed, man, it's a beautiful and wonderful thing, bro.
For
So
sure.
hats off to you for that, man. And then
Right.
one last thing before we
Yes,
go,
sir.
man, if you can speak to someone who back against the wall and they feel like giving up, right? Because we're dealing right now with society where suicide rates it's increasing. You got people who are just giving up on their dreams. They're giving up on starting that business. And when we study the successful people, and we see that they fail 100, 200, 300,000 times,
Yeah.
and they finally get that big break. But if there's someone right now listening to this podcast and they love everything, they soaking up everything you're sharing with them, and you can really give them encouragement, so that they can keep pushing through, man? What would
For
you leave
sure.
with?
I say a lot of times when we are trying to accomplish something, we focus a lot on the negatives, right? And we always chalk up the negatives like this is going wrong, this is going wrong, this is going wrong, this is going wrong. But what I want people to do is to write the positives, because those small wins, like if you win this much every single day, right? Just this much will turn to this much turn to this much will go turn to that much. And the hardest thing about life in general is, and the most scariest thing about life is when you walk into the unknown. So every single day when you are going to a place or waking up and giving it your all and saying that you're going to dedicate your time and your energy and your effort to whatever it is that you want to do or to your life, and you're still in the same place or the same predicament that you once were in. Now that right there is tough. And I feel like the biggest thing is that through that process, you have to count those small wins. You have to focus on the positives. You have to have a faith that you could see what you want to do, that you could smell it, that you could taste it, that you could feel it. You know, like you have to feel that, right? And your brain has to feel that as well, because once your brain is the strongest muscle in your body. So once that is able to see that, your body's going to follow and do the rest. So no matter what's happening in your business, no matter what's happening in your life, you got to make sure you count the positives. Every single day, you should write down the positive things that happen. Because like they said, I think they said there's like 80,000 thoughts that go into our brains every single day. It's probably more than that. I'm just giving the number, I think. But anyways, but they said out of 80,000, probably like, 75,000 is all negative, right? So we have to tend to focus on the positives rather than the negatives. And so that's the little things that I'll give anybody out there that's listening. I say just be patient, focus on the positives, and just keep going. Just keep going and just keep, swinging that sword or swinging that hammer or that axe and cutting through that wood.
That's it, man. Hey, look, I love it, man. And it reminds me of a book that, I got in my library. It's called A Compound Effect. And so doing small things each day, each day, and it'll compound and compound over time. Next thing you know, you're going to look back and see that you're further along than you ever been, and you're closer to the goal if you just take those small steps, man. So yeah, man, that's what's up, bro. Hey, look, man, appreciate you, man. Love you, bro. And
appreciate you,
man,
brother.
keep
Love
doing
you too,
your
man.
thing in Cali, bro. We're gonna connect, man. For those that are listening, I appreciate you for the support and the love. This is the Desire to Dream podcast. Your boy Lo. Peace.
Peace out, y'all. Yep.